Good morning. Thanks for tuning in. You're watching the F&O Show on Bloomberg Quint Live, India's first digital live streaming business news service. I'm Navneet Saluja D'Souza.
Good morning, Navneet. I'm Agam Vakil. Let's take a look at the headlines. Markets open week after for the second straight day in a row, and the Nifty falls towards 11,500. Banking stocks continue to underperform. All sectoral indices trade with losses. Bank of Baroda is seeing a rise in open interest. The stock is seeing fresh short positions. The State Bank of India is the top loser in today's trade. Morgan Stanley has downgraded the stock to equal weight, citing uncertainty over its asset quality. And Kaveri Seed Company is trading with gains after the company approved a share buyback at a 28% premium to Tuesday's closing price.
All right, those are your top headlines at this hour. Let's also tell you what's happening with the markets. Today is the penultimate day to the monthly expiry, which is scheduled tomorrow. And ahead of that, we are seeing some bit of cool off coming in for the second straight day. Remember, after the rise that we've seen on Friday and Monday, yesterday indices closed mildly in the red. And today we did breach the mark of 11,500 on Nifty. But maybe there is some bit of recovery or buying coming in at lower levels. But ahead of expiry, you can definitely expect some bit of volatility to come by. Sensex down 286 points in trade, and Bank Nifty is the one which is dragging Nifty lower. Also, the banking heavyweights have been witnessing some bit of profit booking since yesterday. So Bank Nifty is down almost 400 points in trade. Quickly take a look at the broader markets as well. I think the market breadth today is also till now in favor of the decline. So mid-cap index down 0.8%, and the Nifty small cap 100 index seen cuts of about 38 points in trade. And as you can see on your screen, the market breadth on NSE is firmly in favor of the declines as we speak. And quickly take a look at the volatility index as well, which is cooled off now. Now, surprisingly, this index moves in opposite direction to the market, but that's not been the case since Friday at least, with markets falling nearly 80 points. India VIX also cooling off. So VIX cooling off is actually a good sign, at least for the bulls. Quickly looking at the options data, what's the range you can watch out for tomorrow's expiry? As of now, today we are seeing some bit of OI addition. This is the distribution which is telling you maximum open interest on the call side is at 11,006 and also the 11,700 strike, whereas on the put side 11,500 remains a key level to watch out, I'll say, for tomorrow. So as of now, 11,550 and the 11,600 call strikes have seen maximum OI addition so far, and unwinding seen for 11,600 put strikes. So we've been giving you a range looking at the premium on 11,005 and the 11,600 strike, that expiry Agam could be in range of about 11,300 to maximum 11,800 on top. And that's only if there is any sort of buying which now comes in at lower levels.
Well, absolutely. Fair enough. But let's also talk about the stocks which will be in focus today. Of course, will expiry just around the corner. So there will be plenty which will actually be seeing unwinding. But let's start by talking about those stocks which are seeing an increase in open interest. And we do have IDBI Bank, which is up as much as 4%. There's buying there, and Power Grid is the other one which is also standing out as much as 3%. NMDC, on the other hand, losing out. That's down around 2%, and there's shorts there. And while Adani Enterprises and Bajaj Auto are looking at accumulation in open interest, there isn't as much in terms of change as far as their spot prices are concerned. What about unwinding? And this is where, once again, the numbers could look or start looking a little bit larger, considering expiry. Arvind, Kajaria Ceramics looking at longs unwinding coming through, but we'll have to wait for the data, see whether or not this is actually fresh longs in the October futures. And Bank of India is also under a bit of pressure. So on the whole, we're not looking at too much in terms of unwinding just yet. Again, we're going to be keeping an eye on all those stocks which are looking at substantial increase in open interest. Navneet?
Yep, we'll be watching out for all those counters. But on the show today, we will be discussing these three stocks with our experts. And on top of the list is SBI, which is open in the red today after Morgan Stanley has downgraded the stock to equal weight, though they've maintained their target price of about 330 rupees on the stock. Titan is the other one, which has rallied almost 40% so far this year, and HSBC has upgraded this counter to buy. And Ashok Leyland, which snaps the three-day gaining streak. Remember, there was a short covering rally seen for most of your auto stocks, but Ashok Leyland this morning has seen some bit of cool off coming by. So we'll see whether at these lower levels, once again, there is any sort of buying which emerges for Ashok Leyland or not.
Okay, there you have it. Well, We're going to be watching out for that. But now it's time to get in our experts. But before that, here's a reminder. If you have any queries regarding futures and options markets, you can call us on 022-454-04141 or, of course, write to us on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube with the AskBQ hashtag. We have today with us Rahul Shah of Motilal Oswal Securities and K. Subramanyam of Altamount Capital joining us on the show. Good morning to both of you, and thanks for taking the time out. Rahul, I start with you. Where do we go from here? Some weakness in stock here on?
Hi, good morning. I think we are seeing some kind of weakness after a good run up in last 2-3 days. So my sense is I think still the undertone is very positive. If I look at the broader structure and the heavyweights of the indices, this still looks very convincing. So I think till that time, if I'm seeing all the large caps and the heavyweights on the indices doing fairly well, so I don't think so. That should be a major downside in the indices as of now. I think there could be some of correction in the stock specific, but I think indices can remain higher. In yesterday's session, interestingly, in spite of a lackluster session, we saw technology bouncing back, smartly, which was the losers on Monday. Also, we saw some good buying in pharmas as a whole. So I think overall, as I mentioned, I think markets looks like broadly good enough to get into a much more higher levels from here. And technical levels, if I look at 11,480 is the immediate support for the Nifty, and I think if it breaks, then we might see some more 50-60 points correction, or else looks like in a broader range the markets to be in a range in next 3-4 days from 11,450 and 11,700.
Okay, so undertone still remains positive. That's what Rahul is indicating. Let's take Mr. Subramanyam's view as well. Mr. Subramanyam, good morning to you. Do you use these dips to create fresh longs on the indices, also keeping in mind tomorrow being the expiry day?
Yeah, morning Navneet. I think next couple of days, that is today and tomorrow, could be a bit tricky because we have had such a frenetic rise on the back of largely short covering, and I think even the people who have taken longs would be sitting on pretty high profits. So I think it would be very tempting to take some of those profits off the table. So I think the odds are high that today and tomorrow we could see actually some sort of profit taking and see some sharp fall up to levels of maybe 11,300, 350. The possibility is there, though the overall trend seems to have changed because we have had a very strong breakout. So keeping that in mind, I think still a bullish bias. I am giving some sort of a calendar bull spread, recommending buying of 11,500 strike call for the October 3rd week, for the next week's strike. One could buy the call and sell a current week's 11,500 strike call. That's basically what I'm suggesting is that since next couple of days we are going to see some profit taking, we could use this premium fall to cushion the cost of the buy option that we are buying for the next week rather. So the net cost comes to about 70. That is the next week's option cost something like 130, and this week the option trading at around 50-55. Net cost comes to about 70. Keeping a target of 140. That is what I'm expecting is probably again see the the market regaining ground. And also suggested stop loss of 35 and a covered call in GAIL. GAIL in fact last week was one of the strong counters which actually consolidated above levels of 130, 133, and again we have seeing some correction. But again, becoming a bit conservative, doing a covered call strategy, one could buy the October futures, sell a 135 strike call. That's giving almost a rich premium of 8 to 9 rupees. Keeping a target of 142 and stop loss of 126. And the last one is just tactical downside play on L&T. One could buy the 1450 strike September put. That's quoting into 9 to 10 rupees. Keeping a target of 18 and stop loss of 4. Again, I think we have seen a frenetic rise, and I think we could see some long unwinding coming about at levels, after seeing the sort of rise that we have seen in L&T. So cooling off to levels of 1425 could be expected.
Okay, well, for those who don't know what a covered call is, it is a strategy employed when an investor holds a near-term neutral view with a positive bias on a security or, for that matter, in futures. This involves selling of a call option in the asset in which the investor has bought securities or futures. But Rahul, I'll come back to you. Your view on stocks, anything that looks interesting to you today?
I think longs, two stocks. One remains the Nifty heavyweight Reliance Industries. We saw good longs built up in yesterday's session, and I think continue to do well today as well. So I feel there could be some more upside on Reliance in near term. So I think risk to reward could be positive going long on Reliance with a stop loss of 1275 and target of 1340. Secondly, is interestingly, we saw good bounce back on IndusInd Bank with a short squeeze and then fresh longs built up in the stock. And I think it's still sustaining about 1500 or odd levels. So I feel there could be some more upside in IndusInd Bank. So I would go long in IndusInd with a stop loss of 1502 and target of 1570.
Okay, so those are some long strategies coming from Rahul for the day, but let's also discuss some individual stocks which are in focus. And I want to start off with SPI, which is seeing some bit of cuts in today's trading session. The reason behind that, in fact, the stock's fallen, by the way, for the second straight day. It's been trading below its 200-day moving average. Morgan Stanley has downgraded the stock to equal weight from an earlier rating of overweight, though they've not tinkered with the target price. So they've maintained their price target of about 330 on the stock. The stock's down almost 3.5% in trade, and it trades somewhere about 291 or 292. Mr. Subramanyam, looking at the correction that we've seen for SPI so far in this calendar year, also the stock's not done too much. I think it's still flattish or giving you mild bit of negative returns. Would you take any fresh bet considering it's trading below its 200-day moving average?
Yeah, the fact that it has seen such a sharp rise in the last 3-4 days, I think that will again play on the mind. So we might see this stock cooling off to levels of 280, 285, where definitely there's a case for going long on SBI. So probably the most part of the correction is done. So probably some more correction for maybe 7-8 rupees on the downside. Subsequently, I think we could look to buy into SBI.
Okay, and the other stock that you want to address is Titan. Well, there's no letting up for this one, and we've recently had another broking house upgrade the stock to buy from hold. This is after the kind of run that we've seen in Titan. Well, it may be over 20-25% from the recent lows. It's currently trending around the 1300 mark, and HSBC has put a price target of 1450. From current market levels, upping its price target from 1200. And well, the simple explanation for this is the company is a long-term structural winner, and that's the reason why they have upgraded it. Says they say that it's well positioned to monetize shift to the organized sector. So a lot of strength, at least as per HSBC is concerned, viewed in Titan in the long term. But what about the short term, and how would you trade Titan at these levels? Rahul, I know that Titan has run up very quickly recently, but is this a case for building new long positions in this counter? What levels would you watch out for?
I think definitely the Titan hit a new high again at 52-week high again a day before yesterday, and I think has moved up 20% from the lower levels in recent times. So I feel still the time the stock is about 1280 or odd levels. I don't think so. One should take a bearish bet, and the risk to reward looks quite promising in Titan. Good longs built up also, and a good OI as well on the stock. So I feel one can still go long with a stop loss of 1280 on Titan. One can expect 1330 as the first target, and maybe more once it crosses 1345.
Okay, that's Titan for you. Last 12 months, the stock's given you returns of about 64%. Remember when the markets went up on Friday and Monday, all your beaten down auto stocks, they registered sharp short covering bounce as well. So one of them is Ashok Leyland, which today, by the way, has just snapped the 3-day gains. But in the last 3 sessions, the stock has rallied from those levels from 59 to almost 72, 73 currently. Though on year-to-date basis, the stock's down 28%, and it's currently trading above its 50-day moving average. Mr. Subramanyam, looking at the move that we've seen in the last 3 days, but today there is some bit of cool off, could be a function of expiry as well. Would you take a fresh bet for next series on Ashok Leyland, or you would avoid it?
Nowadays, I think I will avoid it. Again, this has absolutely been a totally underperforming stock, but saw a strong breakout on Friday. So, and the breakout happened at levels of 70. So, to be comfortable to get into the stock, I think I would probably expect a correction probably below 70 also. 67, 68 would be ideal levels. So, probably not far still, but I would probably wait it out and take my bet on the long bet on the upside after waiting for the correction.
Okay, let's move on and address queries then. And we have some interesting ones. We have one which we don't always talk about. This one is from Indra Sena Reddy, and the query is on Adani Power. He writes on YouTube that he holds the Adani Power 70 call for the October expiry, and he wants to know if he should sell or hold. Let's take a look at this specific option. So the October 70 call currently trades at 5.3. Adani Power currently is at 69, so there's all the reason. Should it move and become in the money? Well, of course, Indra Sena will make some money. The question is that what are the levels to watch here? So, Rahul, I come to you. Adani Power, not too far from being in the money. The October 70 call has been bought. What levels should you suggest? Or would you suggest he book out of this position right now?
I think this is one stock which has done quite well in the entire power sector, and it's touched an 52-week high. So obviously the stock is in a new territory. So my view is that near term the stock can still be in a bullish mode. So he can just keep a stop loss of 68 on a spot size. Once it breaks 68, he should unwind till the time he can ride on. I think there could be some more upside on Adani Power from here.
Okay, that's Adani Power for you. The next query comes in from Vivek Kanoja, and he wants to take a position for the October series for stocks like HDFC and HDFC Bank. But what he wants to know from our experts is how to go about it. So, Mr. Subramanyam, he wants to basically place a bet on the option side for both these stocks for October series. What would you suggest him to do?
Well, as I mentioned, the next couple of days could be a bit critical because we are seeing some long unwinding coming about, and considering the already pretty sharp rise that we have seen. So, as coming to HDFC, I think what you could possibly do is to wait for this correction to go up to levels of maybe, I think it's almost very close to some very important support levels. So, I think wait for the levels of 2050 thereabouts, where you could probably go and buy 2100 strike call of the October series and play on the upside. So that would be my call on as far as the HDFC is concerned.
Okay, let's move on and talk about one more counter. That's MCX specifically. Navneet Kumar wants to know MCX futures and what to do with it. He's bought it at 980. Well, I'm not certain, Navneet, that you bought the October futures because, you won't be able to trade because it moves out of the F&O in this particular segment. Should it be in the September futures? Well, let's take a view here. And perhaps we could also take a view in general of the MCX in the cash markets, beyond the September expiry. Okay, so Rahul, I come to you on this one. MCX, things seem to have changed of late for MCX. What's your view here? Let's talk about the cash market, considering it is going to move out of the F&O. What's your view here? What levels are you watching out for?
I think the MCX has done quite well. Stock is near to its, again, 52-week high of 1020 plus or odd. The structure remains very strong on MCX. I think the support for the stock is at 976 or odd. So I think till the time it's above 975, I don't think so. The downside in near term. So I think I would go long in MCX. That it can again make an attempt of 1030-35 from the current levels.
Okay, that's MCX for you. Navneet's asking if there is any fresh position that you can take currently. Of course you can, but that's only for the September series, which expires tomorrow. So ahead of expiry, there can be a lot of volatility. So best to stay away from a stock which no longer will be available, for trading in the futures and options market from Friday. That's the beginning of the October series. And just to remind our viewers, we did cover this yesterday. From the October series, there are 12 stocks which will not be available in the futures and options market to trade. And they are the likes of Arvind, Birlasoft, Dewan Housing, Engineers India, and also stocks like Hindustan Zinc, ITBI, Kajaria Ceramics, and MCX is something which we've already discussed, and Oracle Financial. Raymond is the other one which went up yesterday. So some short covering bounce definitely seen, considering there is open interest in the system currently for them. And also Reliance Capital and stocks like Reliance Infra will be moving out from the futures and options market. All right. Having said that, let's also just look at stocks which are right now buzzing. And Power Grid is the top gainer right now. Nifty, the stock's up about nearly 4% in trade. Rahul, 4% move in the stock. Would you trade at levels of 198 or wait it out?
I think I would wait it out. Power Grid is a very range-bound stock. We see 190 and 204.5 and the rally just fizzles out. So I don't think so. I would go long in Power Grid at this point.
Okay, well, that's your view on Power Grid. We also have Vivek Kanoja, who wants a view on HDFC Limited. I'm going to take just one, Vivek, considering we don't have too much time. If we do, we'll come back to you on that one. But for now, HDFC Limited, let's start with that. It's declining by as much as 2 point. Okay, I believe we've done with HDFC, pardon me. Let's move on and we'll talk about one more stock which is buzzing in trade right now, and that's Z Entertainment. Now, what's really happened in Z Entertainment is off late. Yesterday, there's been a little bit of an arrest as far as the fall is concerned. But the real question is that the stock remains volatile, and we don't know as to what's in store for the stock. For now, what is official is that there's been an extension for the promoters to, give back the loans, at least for the repayment. It's down as much as 18%. It's currently at 281. The real question is, where do we go from here? Is there something that our experts may suggest that there is, the stock has bottomed out? Is there an interesting contrarian play here? That's the question I want to ask. Mr. Subramanyam, I come to you on this one. Your view here, what would you suggest we do with this?
Well, Agam, to tell you frankly, I think it's a very tempting stock. I think it's one of the biggest beneficiaries of this tax cut. And unfortunately, because of the recent developments in the counter and the selling that has taken place, we have seen this sort of fall. But I think it's now almost at a very oversold position. 280 is a level where I think the downside could be limited. And now that with some positivity coming to the stock in terms of the news flow that we saw today. So I would be tempted to go long, and for a trade, I would again be a bit conservative because this has shown some pretty violent tendencies. So maybe one could do some sort of a covered call, buy the October series futures and maybe sell at a 300 strike call. That 300 strike call is yielding 25 rupees. So that shows the risk premium that we are paying. So one can really take advantage of that. Sell that, do a covered call here. I think it's worth it. And 280, buy the futures at 280, sell the 300 strike call at 22 to 25. And if we do have an upside, I think we could see the stock going up to levels of 320.
Okay, that's Z for you. Some announcement coming this morning where Russell Group has said that the lenders have agreed to give an extension. Probably, let's see if that's the reason why the stocks arrested that fall that we've seen. But just want to address Tata Elxsi as well. Stock's not doing too much in today's trade, but yesterday it was up about 5 to 6% in trade, and we did see some bit of activity coming by. Rollovers currently stand at about 52%. Rahul, it crossed the 50 DMA yesterday, and after a while we saw that move coming in for a stock like Tata Elxsi. Of course, it was active, I guess, on Friday as well. Would you take a bet looking at the recent price action?
I would still avoid mid-cap IT companies at this juncture of point. I don't think so that Tata Elxsi is in a state where one should go long. I think the structure still remains the weak. It could be in a range from 660 to 695. So I think the risk to reward will not be favorable in Tata Elxsi going long at this juncture.
Okay, avoid Tata Elxsi. It did open in the red, but now the stock's sitting with some bit of gains around the levels of 688. All right, just to revisit the markets, we are below the mark of 11,500, and I think this is the lowest point so far for today. 11,482, yes it is, where the index is trading. So it's a cut of nearly 1% that we've seen. Broader markets continue to reel under pressure as well. But the volatility index has cooled off. All your sectoral indices are trading with cuts. I think banking is taking the major hit, be it Nifty Bank, Nifty PSU Banking Index, both of them have seen sharper cuts, but IT is just managing to hold up in the green. So some, safe haven buying seen in the form of HCL, TCS, which are up and about. Among the F&O stocks, remember we highlighted some stocks coming out of the futures and options market. So Divan Housing, IDBI are top F&O gainers, but remember these are stocks where a lot of short positions were there in the system. Since they will be coming out, you are seeing some unwinding pressure on the short covering side. Power Grid is something we've already discussed, but Manappuram is the other one, which was up 5 to 5.5% yesterday. It's seen further gains of about 1% to 1.5%. Voltas is also seeing some meager gains in the weak market, but on the losing side, you've got SBI, Arvind, Tata Motor. TVR is down and Tata Power is also under pressure in today's trade.
Okay, well, on that note, I am going to take a moment to thank both our experts, Rahul and Mr. Subramanyam, for joining us and taking us through their views on the markets. For more updates on the F&O space, you can also check our website, bloombergquint.com, specifically the futures and options pages.
With that, it's a wrap on this edition of the show. Thanks a lot for watching, but stay tuned to Bloomberg Quint for more news and updates.